Welcome back, everyone. Okay, today's explainer is, well, it's pretty special. We're diving right into the actual real-world mechanics of ambition. You hear people say, think big all the time, right? But what does that actually mean? Today, we are exploring a truly fascinating piece of source material that gives us a literal blueprint for how a simple yet massive mindset shift can completely rewrite your future.
Actually, before we even formally meet the protagonist of our story, just take a look at this note. My current situation is small, but my future doesn't have to be. He wrote this on a scrap of paper when he was just a kid and stuck it to his bedroom wall so it was the very first thing he saw every single morning. I mean, imagine having that kind of clarity at that age. It's just a total, absolute rejection of the idea that where you start is where you have to finish.
The village boy's dream. Ambition in a small world.
Okay, so picture this. Our story starts with a boy named Arjun. He lived in a tiny village where pretty much everyone believed that your origins dictated your destiny. His family struggled daily, and he'd literally walk to school carrying old, beaten-up books in a torn bag. Well, one day his teacher asks the class what they want to become in the future. You get the usual answers, right? Teacher, police officer, shop owner. But Arjun? He stands up and declares, I want to build a company that gives jobs to thousands of people. And you know what happened? The whole room just erupted in laughter. Kids were pointing at his torn bag, and even some of the adults just kind of smiled and shook their heads like it was a cute, foolish joke.
Bigger than your comfort, the daily grind.
But here's the thing. Arjun didn't shrink his vision just to make the people around him more comfortable. He just got to work. When the power went out at home, he was out sitting under streetlights to study. And while his friends were totally fixated on just memorizing enough to pass their exams and get a piece of paper, Arjun was playing a completely different game. He was actually learning. He was actively accumulating real, tangible skills because he knew a massive dream needs massive competence, not just a passing grade.
His friends honestly thought he was crazy. They couldn't understand why he was pushing himself to such extremes while they were taking it easy. And when they finally asked him why he was working so incredibly hard, Arjun gave them this exact response. Because my dream is bigger than my comfort. How powerful is that? Every late night, every sacrifice, it was all entirely fueled by the sheer size of his vision. The comfort of right now was basically just the price of admission for the magnitude of his future.
Failure as a lesson. The early struggles.
Fast forward a bit. After college, Arjun launches a small business. And man, this is where the romantic idea of chasing a huge dream just violently crashes into reality. Year 1, total failure. Year 2, failed again. Year 3, you guessed it, completely failed. It was just a relentless string of setbacks. And of course, the chorus of doubters came rushing back. Everyone from his past, plus new critics alike, were lining up to tell him exactly what they said back in that classroom. His dream was simply too big, and he needed to be realistic.
But during those really dark years, Arjun figured out a real game changer. Think about it. The physical event of a failure is exactly the same for everybody. A closed business is a closed business. But how you interpret that failure, that depends entirely on the size of your thinking. See, small thinkers look at a failed year and see a definitive end. It's a stop sign. But big thinkers, they just see it as a really expensive lesson. It's vital data. It's just life telling you what not to do next time.
The true secret to success, a return to the beginning.
Because he treated those brutal failures as lessons. He simply refused to quit. He took the data, tweaked his approach, and kept getting better, year after year, until the tide eventually turned. His business found its footing, and then it just exploded. It grew faster and faster. Years later, that exact same boy who was mocked for his torn school bag now owned a company employing literally thousands of people. He had built the exact reality they laughed at him for imagining. So when he eventually goes back to visit his old school as this wildly successful founder, a kid asks him to reveal his ultimate secret.
Listen closely to his answer here, because I really want you to absorb this. He said, "Nothing changed the day I succeeded. Everything changed the day I started thinking bigger than my circumstances." The actual transformation didn't happen when the bank account filled up or when he hired his 1,000th employee. It happened years earlier, in his mind, in that tiny village bedroom. The external success was just a delayed reflection of that internal shift.
Deciding your own future. The moral of the story.
So what does this all mean for us today? Well, first, we've really got to unlearn some toxic limitations. Things like your current situation, your bank balance, where you come from, or what other people think of you. These external factors do not decide your future. Sure, they might dictate your starting line. And yeah, they might make the beginning of the journey a lot harder.
but they absolutely do not dictate your finish line. You have to strip these completely out of your decision-making process.
Instead, focus on the things that actually write your future. And those are entirely internal drivers. It comes down to the sheer size of your vision in the first place. It's the actual daily actions you take to build your skills. And it's your pure, stubborn resilience when you inevitably hit a wall of failure. These are the levers you can actually pull. These are the metrics that move the needle.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of our explainer today. The life you're dreaming of right now might seem mathematically impossible based on your current resources, but you have to remember that every massive company, every huge leap forward in human history started out as nothing more than a mere thought in someone's mind. Small thinking practically guarantees small results. Thinking big doesn't automatically guarantee success, but it is the absolute prerequisite for creating the possibility of it.
To make this leap, we have to fundamentally flip the script on the questions we ask ourselves in the mirror. Stop asking yourself, what can I do with what I have? That's just a resource-based limitation. It traps you. Instead, start asking yourself, what can I become if I absolutely refuse to stop trying? That right there is the shift. It moves your brain away from what's missing and points it directly toward infinite, effort-based potential.
So, I want to leave you with this. What is that one massive dream that you absolutely refuse to let go of? No matter how many people might laugh or how many people doubt you. I would love for you to drop your answer in the comments below. Put it out there on the record. And then, as soon as you do, go take the very first actionable step toward it today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep thinking big, and I'll see you next time.